it wasn't as successful as I thought it was going to be because it took me 8 months.
105,000 on your first deal. Can you
Yeah,
imagine making a life
exactly.
by design? You're
Yeah.
living a life by design now. It's not happening to you. You're doing it. Bryan, you live in California, right? And you're doing California market and you're doing Texas. Is that right, Houston?
Houston, and I just started in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, actually.
Okay. Where
Yeah.
where in Arkansas?
Rogers, Benville area.
Okay. Don't
Yeah,
know that
yeah.
market real well. Why'd you choose Arkansas?
During COVID, I stayed in Nashville for 3 months, and all I saw is cranes going in to during that time. And one of my friends from Dallas moved over to Northwest Arkansas, and he was like, "Come on over and like let's do some deals out here." And I went. I think it was September, October, something like that. And it reminded me so much of Nashville basically, and I decided to just started like trying to get deals out there, and we've locked I think 4 deals already. We're closing on two this week, actually next week, flips. So it's been going
Right.
good so far. Yeah. So
And you got
yeah.
started about 4 years ago. So in 4 years, you're now working in multiple markets. And
Yeah.
is the Southern California, is that your backyard market, or are you doing all virtual, all the markets?
Yeah, I do some deals out here. I live out here in Orange County, but I've done some deals out here. But I don't know.
Gotcha.
I guess I've been more successful in virtual than out here for some reason. And there's a huge difference of, you know, buyers out here and hedge funds
Definitely.
out here that are buying like crazy out here. So I just
Yeah.
decided I do some deals maybe like one deal every 2-3 months, I think,
Okay.
flips. So I still do deals out here, but not as often as Arkansas doing, 2 to 3 deals now a month, and Houston wholesaling most of the time out there, 2 to 3 deals a month. So yeah,
And are you doing mostly flips or some wholesales or both?
both.
Okay.
Arkansas, it's been more of flips right now. Houston, it used to be flips when I wasn't active in Arkansas, but right now we're just doing wholesales at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of the model I like to follow. For me,
Mhm.
I like to mostly wholesale and then be very selective about flips, make
Yeah.
sure I'm only taking on really good high margin flips.
Exactly.
So I love that you're doing that. That's awesome. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about you, Bryan. Like you got started 4 years ago, but what was it like for you starting? How long did it take you to go from like learning to taking action to doing deals? Let's start with
Yeah.
that because I'd love to see how you've progressed into who you are today.
I think it was a typo. I think I meant to put 6, but I think I typed 4. So I've been in the game for 6 years.
Oh, 6 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 6 years. Yeah. So
Which
I
in this
started.
industry, you're a veteran, like 6 years, you've been around a bit.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't feel like it, but it feels like, like a lot of years.
Yeah.
My last job was in the mortgage industry, so I used to be a loan processor, and that is just a lot of paperwork, and I got bored of it, and I was like, the branch actually out here in Orange County in Costa Mesa. I don't know if you're familiar with this area, but they closed down, they shut down, and I was like, well, I guess this is the moment to start something if I'm ever going to start something. So I saved up a couple of money, some money, and I just started like I bought a book in Barnes and Noble. I don't know if you remember this book, but it's Find It, Fix It, and Flip It. It's a green book by Gary. I forgot his last name, Gary Keller, I think, or something like that,
Yeah,
for
Gary
Keller
Keller.
Williams. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I bought that book. I started reading it, and it has a section where it gives you step by step. So you would, find get the data or whatever. For them, it was a lead. Like it was driving for dollars or buying data from your title company or from the city or the county. Um, so I started doing that, and unfortunately, it wasn't as successful as I thought it was going to be because it took me 8 months. And 8 months in your first year is a lot of time because
Yeah.
you're quitting by the third month because you don't see anything happening, right?
Yeah.
And you're
Most
putting in
people.
all this money, marketing money, and I think I spent about during those 8 months before I got my first deal, I think about like 15,000 that I didn't have. Well, I did have, but it was saved up. I had other expenses that I had to pay, but yeah, I'm just glad I didn't quit because if I did quit, I probably would still be working in the mortgage industry at this point.
So 8 months to get your first deal. I mean, most people
Yeah.
definitely would have quit by then. They would have
Oh
said,
yeah, for sure.
I can't keep floating this. It doesn't work. I'm
Yeah.
discouraged. How did
Yeah.
you keep going with 8 months before your first deal? What kept you going?
To be honest, my goal has always been to retire my parents. That's been my goal. They're immigrants from Mexico, so they gave me a life that I probably would have never had if they didn't. So it was more of that motivation of like, okay, I got to keep going, not just for myself because I don't want to go back to a 9 to 5 job, but for my parents to eventually be able to have the
Cool.
lifestyle, I guess, that they want. And me being a believer, I'm like, I'm just gonna have faith and just keep going at it. And if I know that even in a regular job, you're gonna have ups and downs and whatever it is that you come across in a regular job. But at this point, I was like, well, if it ends up working, then I probably would be working wherever I want, wherever I desire to work from. But yeah, 8 months, it was just like gotta keep pushing myself, and it was hard. I'll be honest, I quit so
Yeah.
many times that I can't even count, but it was so worth it at the end that I
And
think that was the
are your
reason.
parents proud of you?
Now they are. They were a little scared, where are you losing all this money for? There's no point in it. Like just
Yeah.
go back to school or go get the same job. You still got paid or whatever. But I was like, yeah, but I think there's a different vision and a different goal that I have in
I've
mind.
got such tremendous respect for immigrants because they just have so much appreciation for the opportunity.
Of
And so
course.
many people here that, maybe were born and raised in America, you just, there's so much entitlement, and it's sad to
Yeah.
see. In fact, I feel very fortunate because I grew up without very much, very
Mhm.
poor, rural Michigan, middle of nowhere, dirt road, cornfields.
Yeah.
And my parents, bless their hearts, they just didn't have the means to give me. Maybe they would have if they had the means. So it might have been a little bit of like good parenting by default, but I learned
Yeah.
how to work hard. I learned how to go get something I wanted. I learned how to
Mhm.
appreciate what I had.
Yeah. Exactly.
And those things carried over into my adulthood and really gave me a big drive to
Yeah.
make something out of my life. And I think a lot of people that grow up with too much comfort, they just it's easy to be complacent,
Yeah.
and then that just stifles any kind of drive to do something hard or big or
Yeah.
special, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like I just they don't really know what it means to want something and not be able to have it.
Yeah. 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 Of course.
Love that.
Yeah, yeah. And then obviously they came, we didn't live in the best area in LA. We lived in next to Watts. I don't know if you know the South Central. So it's a very, very like bad area. So I'm just glad that that was the opportunity that we had, that I
Yeah.
saw
And
that,
look at you
like
now making your own way, making a life
exactly.
by design. You're
Yeah,
living a life by design now. It's not
yeah,
happening to you. You're doing it.
yeah,
And so
exactly.
you're in the elite club of entrepreneurs and people that, really proactively make a life for themselves rather than
Yeah,
just settling for whatever
exactly.
whatever job, right? So I'm
Yeah,
super proud
exactly.
of you, Bryan. That's really awesome.
Thanks. Appreciate
Well,
it.
tell us about what happened from like first deal. What was that first deal like? And then maybe we can fast forward to today.
Yeah.
But what was that first deal like?
Well, the first deal is always the craziest deal, I guess you could say. Um, there's a city here in West Covina. It's called West Covina. I think I lost the deal. Well, the way that I got it was pre-foreclosure. As you know, pre-foreclosure lists are very easy to get, but everybody could get it. So that was the biggest mission that I think that I had, and I'm glad I learned it because I'm a very introvert person. Like I'm very shy, so it was like either you do it or you go back, like again, back to the 9 to 5 job. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to go door knock. And back then it was big. Like everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing mail. I think it was like postcards, I believe.
Yeah.
Cold calling was in a thing. Text messaging was in a thing. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I gotta create these little business cards that I've never had business cards. So I created them online. Well, my brother was a graphic designer, so he helped me a little bit, and I started just door knocking. 8 months of that, well, 6 months of that after I learned, the first 2 months that I was procrastinating a lot, I just started door knocking and basically I'm glad that my parents taught me how to speak Spanish because it was a Spanish speaking person. So I
Mhm.
had more of an advantage, I think, because not a lot of people, she would tell me, yeah, there was people that only spoke English that came to my door and couldn't help me because I couldn't understand them. And I was like, well, perfect. I speak Spanish and we could talk about this and find a solution for you. So I tried to do a loan modification. I'm sure you know about that stuff. And I tried to help them out so that they could keep the house. I was more of like serving them instead of trying to get that first deal. But at the end of the day, like, I think that paid off for them to know that I was actually trying to help them and not just trying to get a deal or make
Yeah.
money off of them. Because I did tell them I am an investor. I am trying to buy the house, to flip it or to wholesale it or whatever. But yeah, it was, I think, that full 30 days of just going back and forth with her, like trying to figure out loan modification. Could they apply? Did they have the qualifications to do it? And at the end of the day, like they couldn't because they didn't have a job, they didn't have money to even do anything, to even pay for the following month. So I believe at that time, I don't remember, but I know I got it at 65% of the ARV, which is
Okay.
really good, back
Yeah.
then. I do remember how much I made because that's been my biggest wholesale deal till day. It was $105,000 that
On the
you know
wholesale.
on the
Wow.
wholesale, yeah, in California, Southern California. It was an investor paid 80%, so the spread. There
Yeah.
was an agent involved, which now I guess you could call it novation. Because I didn't know anything about it. So he was involved. I paid him out, the 3%, and yeah, that was the I guess my first deal that I've
Wow. Your
ever
first
done.
deal made 105, was it 105,
Yeah,
is that what we said?
105,000. Yeah, yeah,
105,000 on
yeah,
your first deal. Can you
yeah.
imagine? I mean, after 8 months, that's certainly probably set in stone the rest of your life. Like that probably
Of
put you on a
course.
trajectory of like, okay, this is my thing.
This works. First of all, this works because I didn't know. Like I
Yeah.
knew I was, you would look on YouTube and obviously I saw some of your videos because you started, the whole YouTube scene. And yeah, I was just like, well, if it works out good, if it doesn't, then at least I tried. But I'm glad it
Yeah.
did, I'm glad it worked out.
Amazing. I
But yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that more than you were making at the job on that
Oh
one deal?
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think I made back then as a loan processor, you would make max with bonuses and all that. Maybe the highest year I made was like 55,000, maybe.
Yeah. So
Maybe.
you doubled your annual salary, well worth paying your dues. It's really
Yeah.
interesting because I feel like when someone's willing to go 8 months and keep trying, keep coming
Yeah.
back, keep doing the work, it's almost like there's some law of attraction that's happening there, or it's kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't know, the universe is aligning with your effort.
Yeah.
And I just tell people, don't give up. Like it's going to happen if you're willing to pay the price. It's going to happen,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
just got to
Yeah.
be at the right place at the right time. And the way you get at the right place at the right time is just show up every day, and then it happens. It's crazy. I
Definitely.
tell people all the time, like just make 100 offers and you'll get a deal.
Yeah.
And people don't really believe me. And every time somebody takes me up on it, they find out it's true.
Yeah.
I was on a
Yeah.
wholesale hotline last night, and I said that, and a guy put
Yeah.
in the chat, came on, he said, I thought I was going to be the one that proved Jerry wrong, and I got my first deal on offer number 77 or something like that. And it's just true because you're
Yeah.
doing the work to show up, and the stars are going to align, and
Yeah.
someone's going to say yes, and it's going to be an
Yeah.
amazing deal, and you wholesale
Yeah.
it and make money, and but just
Exactly.
show up, like just get
Yeah.
out there and do the work.
Yeah. I think
So
even on the bad days, like when I didn't want to go door knock, I didn't want to drive, set up that I think it was MapQuest back then,
yeah,
MapQuest, where you would put
yeah,
all the addresses together. I don't remember that. Yeah. It was just like, man, I don't want to do this today. But it was more of like remembering why you're doing it. I think
yeah,
it was just what paid off at the end. And in the bad days when I basically got a hold of this homeowner. So I'm glad, I kept going and I'm glad I kept,
yeah.
putting those addresses on MapQuest and printing out all those papers so I could drive around and figure this wholesaling game or this flipping game. So
Yeah,
yeah.
what an inspiration though for people that are watching this to
Yeah.
stick with it, right? And
Yeah.
if Bryan can go 8 months with no deal and keep going out there and door knock pre-foreclosures,
Yeah.
you certainly can too. Like you really don't have an excuse not to,
Yeah.
especially today. A lot of things have changed in 6 years. I got started 20 years ago, and there was only one strategy back then, and it was driving for
Yeah.
dollars. Like that was it.
Yeah.
Maybe some direct mail, but even
Yeah.
that was expensive. And for a newbie, though, it was driving for dollars. I went and got the MLS. I got my license so I could have the MLS. So then
Yeah.
I found a lot of like banks and things like that.
Yeah.
But really, we've come so far now with technology, with some of the
Yeah.
tools and software, especially
Yeah.
like what I'm doing with PropWire. I mean, right now, guys, you can do PropWire where you pay $97 a month. It's called Gold. You pay $97 a month and you get 2,500 skip traces, which at the going rate of 12 cents a skip trace, like industry standard is 12 cents. That's $300 in skip tracing for $97 a month. And then the data, all the searching and downloading is all free. Like it's just crazy to me that we have the things we have available to go out and do the business, but yet people still find an excuse not to actually do it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always a reason why you can't, and people find the reason why they can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Of
Bryan, thank you for being that inspiration to,
course.
keep going and figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. I remember texting, obviously now it's like launch control and all those. I remember texting, I think it was during like 500 text messages a day through Google Voice, through
Yeah.
the business. And it was like, man, now I think it's just much easier to do deals now.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, yeah,
With
everything's
that
like,
also comes some competition. So the easier things
of
get, the
course,
more, the lower
of
barrier to
course.
entry. So we do have that for sure. I love what Steven said in the chat. He said, I got a 60K fee on my first deal 6 months ago, had me instantly hooked.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, like and you'll chase that dopamine rush now for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now it's just
But
much bigger, much
yeah.
bigger flips, much bigger, whatever it is.
Now,
But
why
yeah.
did you transition into flipping? What did that look like from wholesaling to flipping?
Obviously that flip, obviously, like you said, everything aligned with that flip. I think if even if I made 10K, I mean 20K or even 5K, I think I would have kept going. Um, it was just, wholesale deals like that are very rare. And like, there is, you can still make like even I guess my second biggest deal was 75,000 in
Mm-hmm.
Houston, wholesale deal, not even a flip. But I got to a point where, there was the wholesale deals were still good, like, 10, minimum in Houston was 10, 15. You
Yeah.
could go all the way to up to 30 maybe. But I was like, what if I could flip? And then obviously every flip from that time to now has been 60,000 and plus. So doing
Okay.
three of those, it just makes sense. Obviously there's more work. You deal with contractors, you deal with agents, you deal with title, and you obviously still deal with title and escrow with wholesaling, but you're just dealing with a lot more people. But now you're able to systemize those things. I was able to hire my sister now on board, and she's helping me out with figuring all those systems with the marketing part, and catering to now managing the contractors with all these flips that we're about to do. But I don't know. I think it's more, to me, both of them are fun. It's
Yeah.
just sometimes, the ones that are good, like flips that I'm like, okay, if we flip these three, we can make this amount and it's good. Instead of making, 10, 15, I can make 50, 40, 50, depending on the deal, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was just for me. I've always wanted to do it. I've watched Fixer Upper, so it's always been like I got to try it one day.
Yeah.
So I think it's just mostly that. But now I pick and choose what I flip and what I wholesale or what I'm sure I don't know if you did it, but during COVID when hedge funds were paying up to 85,
Yeah.
90%, I was basically all my Houston deals. I didn't even flip whatsoever. It was
Yeah.
just wholesale to them all day long.
Yeah.
I think I did like 100 hedge fund deals with I think it's with ResiCap. I don't know if you did deals with ResiCap, but I think that was my biggest wholesale year by far, because everything was being,
Yeah.
I would basically send them the address. The next day they would be out there, and literally the following day we would lock it up. And 5, 6 business days after that, they would close on like 5 a month or even 7. I think the most, I think is 8 a month. I think it was that I
Yeah.
wholesale to them. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That was a
Yeah.
great time. That window
It was.
that door came and closed, but yeah, that was a
Yeah.
fun time during that to be wholesaling. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
What would be your biggest lesson maybe over the past 6 years as you've transitioned from, brand new to doing some wholesaling, doing some flipping?
Yeah.
somebody watching right now who maybe they're in the beginning of their journey or they're struggling maybe to get their first deal, what's some advice
Yeah.
you'd give someone now 6 years into the game?
Yeah. I mean, I think my first year was my biggest lesson, I think, because I think if it was given to me, or if I knew about what, if I could buy from a wholesaler, I think it would have been easier, right? But I think those 8 months, yes, they were long. I quit so many times, but I think this game is all about consistency. Like whether it's a good day, whether it's a bad day, I think um, making the effort to even make 5 phone calls a day or 10 phone calls a day, it's better than zero, right? Because then you start falling behind, and now you're catching up to like, oh, it's you said you were gonna call Monday, now it's Friday. Now you pass by 4 business days, right? That other investors are calling, other investors are texting, other investors are sending postcards or even door knocking. I know some investors that still door knock to this day. And I think the consistency and obviously trying your best to be your own cheerleader, I think, motivating yourself, because if mindset isn't there, you'll probably give up the following month. And that's, I don't know how many students you've had in the last 20 years, like how many have quit, how many have succeeded. I'm sure the ones that have
Yeah.
succeeded is very low, right?
Yeah, it is. I
And
mean, there's
yeah,
high attrition. A lot of people quit.
yeah,
Surprisingly, people even do their first deal and then still quit.
yeah,
They don't
yeah,
figure out how to be
yeah,
consistent or maintain that.
yeah,
Certainly. So I love that. Be your own cheerleader. That's great
yeah,
advice. No
yeah.
one's gonna care more about your success than you do,
Yourself, yeah,
and rightfully so. So like if you're waiting for other people to get around you and support you,
yeah,
don't. Like support yourself.
yeah,
Do what you need to do to constantly stay in a state of development, of growth,